of the coordination service of mercantile registries in Spain and also of mobile assets. So I give her the word, and I'm sure this is going to be interesting words from the standpoint of the Spanish regulation.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organization for inviting me to take part in this in such an interesting event. Well, RegTech phenomenon implies the use of new technologies to ease implementation of regulation and especially to help entities fulfill legal requirements in order to reduce associated costs. I'm going to speak about the Spanish Business Register as a source of reliable information for both public and private agents and about the challenges, especially regarding new technologies. But for this purpose, I think that I have to explain you a little bit about the nature and the characteristics of our commerce register in Spain. Well, I know that we are a little bit short of time, so I'm trying to go as quickly as I can. Well, commerce registry in Spain is a legal and public institution whose role is to provide reliability and certainty to corporate and commercial registered transactions and publish data. As our register is not a deposit of deeds or any other document whose documents that are scanned, indexed, archived, and published. The registrar, who is a professional lawyer, must check the legality of the operations that have to be registered. That is, that those operations and the documents in which they are formalized meet all the requirements to produce strong legal effects that our system provides, especially trust in the private transactions, so third parties will be protected by the situation as recorded from inaccuracies or deficiencies in the decision-making by companies. The responsibility may be borne either on the company's directors for falsehood or for errors in their acts, or by the registrar who has not checked and has not controlled legality properly. All registers, because we are land, commerce, and movable property registers, we are all grouped together in a public corporation called the Colegio de Registradores that looks after the quality of the service provided and mediates between relations between registers and final users. And it coordinates electronic services, central electronic services, such as the interconnection between registries supplying online information of all registered data 24/7. It has an access point to registers and also interconnection between our national business registers with BRIS, which is the European Business Register Interconnection System that has been introduced by the European Commission recently. It began its working on last 8th of June. It allows access to updated information on companies and their branches at an EU level, and also interoperability in cases, for example, cross-border mergers. The Colegio holds to the Public Insolvencies Register that manages and publishes information about companies and entrepreneurs involved in insolvencies processes. The Anti-Money Laundering Prevention Center, which is particularly effective because it interrelates data handled by the three kinds of register that I have mentioned. It supports a single point of attention that helps companies or entrepreneurs to fulfill all requirements for any operation that can be related to a commerce register. and also maintains an statistics process center that collects and processes statistics based on registered data that we supply to all kinds of policy makers, regulators, and administrations. So this information is used by these institutions to take decisions about business and economic policies. And finally, it's a local operation unit for the issuing of LEI as a legal entity identifier that you have just talked about. An important, a large amount of the data we manage comes from annual accounts that are submitted to the business register. So the use of XBRL language in annual accounts has meant an improvement of the usefulness of data contained in them. We, business registries in Spain, we've been working with XBRL since 2001. Here you can see the principle or the most important milestones in the standardization process that we have developed and achieved. And in this sense, the Colegio develops and provides through our website free software to help electronic filing of annual accounts, develops and integrates internal software to process and validate XBRL filings, coordinates the development of an app for software suppliers to make the transition to XBRL easier, and in that way to help the endorsement of a national taxonomy of accounting standards. Here you can see the flow of data. Companies with software, forms, and applications provided by our website send their data to the business registers, and from the commerce register we provide online information of registered data to all kinds of users, and also to our statistic processing center for the studies and the publications that it carries. This language, based in XML standard, can be used by all participants in the chain of information, providers of data, companies, registries, analysts, banks, application developers and suppliers, and so on. And it has lots of advantages because well, it provides transparency and reliability, implies cost and time saving for the user, helps the automatic process of filing and delivery, allows massive process and checking of data coherence, and makes information exchange quicker and secure between users, registers, and regulators. So in this way, it helps to make public and private decision-making easier. Continuing with new technologies, let me talk to you a little bit about two topics that are currently in fashion. We have already talked about them. The first one would be blockchain. Well, there have been a lot of talk about blockchain and its possible use in different fields further than Bitcoin. As you know, blockchain is characterized by its privacy, its essential decentralized nature, its extensive use of cryptography as a means of securing transactions, and the absence of a central controlling authority, such as a bank in the case of Bitcoin. There's a lot of discussion about arising problems such as privacy, block size, professionalization of miners, emergence of specialized agents with increasing cost, high energy consumptions, and so on. So discussions about blockchain have been mainly about its technical aspects, problems, advantages, but little about legal implications. Perhaps because most or the first one of the blockchain supporters have been computer scientists and not legal professionals yet. But there is a trend to confuse databases with public registries whose function is protecting the interest of unrepresented third parties, being much more than databases, especially when we are talking about rights registration systems like Germany, Australia, or Spain. Note systems that are based on the recordings of deeds that merely timestamp and archive documents. Well, we could say that there are two versions of blockchain-based models that could be applied to registration, a hard one and a soft one. Well, the hard version would basically consist of a public self-managed blockchain working like Bitcoin. Instead of coins, the system would store smart contracts sent by the parties who have signed them. The blockchain would then would be replicated in the nodes of a free access peer-to-peer network, having the same kinds of nodes as in Bitcoin, where miners would validate transactions by performing mathematical searches and would be rewarded with some kind of virtual money. But there are certain characteristics of this strict or orthodox blockchain operating protocol that are actually incompatible with the objectives that registration systems pursue and the rule of legal certainty that we have to serve. First, there is the use of privacy, as users in a blockchain system are identified only by their public key, while registration systems are a mechanism of transparency, of disclosure, and helps general interests such as fighting crime, for example, corruption or money laundering, which also requires the true identity of registered holders to be known. Another issue is personal data protection, because all information stored in blockchains can be freely accessed by anybody. This is an especially sensitive subject in Europe. But really the main objection is that blockchain systems conduct no check of legality or scrutiny or form whatsoever. Someone has to check that the various component circumstances of the deal are legal and do not affect pre-existing third-party rights. We could think that these issues could be addressed by standardizing the kinds of contracts that can be registered in the land or the common registry. But this could clash with freedom of enterprise and freedom of contracts, both of which are traits of the modern market economy. So we have to take into account every aspect and use technology as a tool, not as a goal. Choosing the hard blockchain would make it seem like the technology is the truly essential item in the process rather than a tool. The only contractual relationships people could have could be the ones that this technology could handle and allow. Well, the soft version of a blockchain model would consist of a private blockchain used only as a mechanism to provide technical security for registration entries while maintaining the institutional registration model that I have described, in which documents must undergo registrar's legal check before the information is entered in the chain. But this system would increasingly resemble other technologies, other technological options that provide the same guarantees, such as the Spanish model, which applies electronic signature technologies to documents and entries and uses electronic timestamps and data replication clusters. That's why some people think that with this information, instead of putting problems on the table and study if this technology based on blockchain can help to solve these problems, what they're really doing is putting this technology on the table and looking for problems to which it can be applied. So let's use the first approach that I have pointed out. That's to say that we have to use this technology to solve problems, not to find problems to use the technology. So the other topic that I would like to talk about is cybersecurity. Because digitalization implies an intensive use of technologies and communications to allow modern citizen, which is used to the use of technologies, a higher level of access to registries. But this digital environment introduces big risks for cybersecurity, because companies and administrations are an attractive target for cyber attacks. Because of the generalization of the Internet of Things, mobile devices are easily connected to networks, and this is becoming a vector for these attacks. So the main challenges are an early detection of these threats, their neutralization, prevention, and protection. And in this way, through the Colegio, action and steps are taken about it. For example, initial audits to detect the current registry status, a main security plan adapted to data protection legal provisions, and manage security services in communications, network monitoring, including hardware, software, and infrastructures. And at an European level, we have an association including registers organization of almost every jurisdiction, and this is one of the topics we are analyzing right now, because any attack taking place in a commerce registry of one country will probably happen next in another one. In this way, there are interesting proposals which are aimed at knowledge and incident sharing, even developing a kind of portal of cyber security alerts, best practice studies, discussion topics, and legal and technical measures. But we need to face all these problems in a comprehensive way and take into account international cooperations. Finally, I'd like to point out that the level of importance and quality of the effects of a registration system, of its output, depends directly on the quality and intensity of the barriers of its entry, its input, and essentially on the width of the powers given to the registrar. I put the emphasis on value because registration information can only reduce transaction costs when the judiciary considers it trustworthy. So both the entry and exit of data in and out of the register must be fully reliable. If the register provides unreliable information, the judge will disregard it, and the economic agents will reject it, making business contracts more expensive, or in some cases even impossible, as they will have to be based only on personal relations between entrepreneurs. In those countries in which registry system has strong legal effects, the market has not produced alternative mechanism or specialized organizations because they are not needed. There is no lack of security to cover. So the added value for a registration system lies with it being able to solve the market legal security problems with the lowest potential costs. Well, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ana. It has been amazing hearing you just speak about dialogue between the regulator and implementing the standards and registradores de España problems. But I have to point out something very briefly, because we have no time now. We have we have lunch afterwards. But the blockchain obstacles that you have been referring to in your presentation are referred to, say, Ethereum or Quorum or public access non-permission blockchains, because now there are other blockchain types, like that where we, without reduction of the legal benefits and security, you can protect privacy, you can protect personal data. You have freedom of contract protected, and standardization is no problem. So I think registradores de España might take profit from semi-public permission blockchains where there is segmentation, efficient segmentation of information and
I mean, perhaps in my presentation you could have the sensation that we are against blockchain.
No,
it's
not really.
Not,
No, just I wanted to point out that
yes,
those obstacles are referred to public blockchains.
Yeah.
So
that's
not to DLT technologies in general.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. I have took a very little and very point of view from our point of view, because you are talking about essentially regulators and sharing data in a financial field and all that. We registrars, we are always looking for security, reliability, not to change systems, our kind of registration system, because there are a lot of different registration systems all around the world. And we think that ours is very effective because it gives big reliability. And we are talking of blockchain. Everyone is talking about blockchain, and there's very little people who knows what's exactly blockchain. That's why I was being a little bit summarizing aspects, and that's why I talk about public blockchain,
yes,
private blockchain, a kind of hard version, an orthodox, or the first approach to blockchain, which was, we all know, Bitcoin, and a soft one. I mean a soft one inside a kind of private blockchain. And I think, and I know that blockchain can be very, very useful, but if you always preserve the qualities of every block of this change. I mean, if you, of course, there are lots of applications even in company law, in contracts. It's very, it could be very, very important in contracts. Whenever you respect freedom of a contract, and there's a big field also in corporations, because there are lots of things that the companies must do in which using the blockchain technology could be very, very, very positive. Yeah.
We are well aware of the finalities of the registrars of Spain in terms of juridical security and so on, and that's exactly what permission blockchains led to do. Thank you very much, Ana, for your very interesting presentation, and I have to declare closed the first session. We have lunch now. Thank you very much, all of you. And we shall be back at 13:30 or 14 to continue with parallel workshops, tracks, and see you later.
So we have 3 workshops, as you can see on the screen. One is dedicated to the a very interesting project called schema.org by major financial and global IT software vendors. That's by Mirek Sopek and Robert Tripus. The other track is dedicated to the blockchain business and techies, and the third track is dedicated, split between the assurance and emerging audit technologies by Leif Watson and Eric Cohen, and the brainstorming for a financial regulatory data dictionary by Ignacio Boiso and Derek DeBrand. Do we already know which room is which, pretty much? In the agenda. If you could please take a look at the website, the web-based agenda version.
The online version of the agenda, you have the rooms. In any case, the blockchain is here.
Mm-hmm.
The tutorial with the colleagues from university is in the third floor, room E308. And Eric Cohen and Leif Watson in third floor, room 301. In any case, all of them are in the online version of it.
All right. Thank you very much, and see you back at around 1:30.